The train station was louder than usual, filled with the metallic screech of brakes and the restless murmur of people rushing somewhere important. Above it all, a cracked digital clock blinked in tired red numbers, announcing delays no one bothered to read anymore. Near the far end of the platform, where the lights flickered and the benches were cold even in daylight, a woman sat quietly with her back against a pillar. Her name was Mara Dot, at least. It had been once. Her coat was 2 sizes too big, its sleeves frayed and shiny from years of wear. She kept her hands tucked inside them, not just for warmth but to hide the trembling that came whenever the wind cut through the station. At her feet lay a small, worn backpack, everything she owned compressed into a few pounds of fabric and broken zippers. She didn't hold a sign. She didn't ask for money. She had learned long ago that asking only made people look at her long enough to decide. She wasn't worth seeing, so she watched instead. She watched lovers arguing in whispers, businessmen pacing with phones glued to their ears, mothers scolding children while secretly pulling them closer. Families came and went, wrapped in their own worlds, while Mara remained still, like a forgotten piece of furniture no one remembered buying. She had once had a home. A real one. A kitchen that smelled like coffee in the mornings, a couch with a sagging middle, walls covered in photos that proved she had mattered to someone. That life felt like it belonged to another woman, now someone softer. Someone luckier? A sudden burst of laughter cut through the noise. High, bright, unguarded laughter. Mara lifted her head. 2 little girls were skipping across the platform tiles, stepping only on the light squares, counting under their breath. They were identical, same height, same round cheeks flushed pink from the cold, same brown hair braided neatly and tied with matching ribbons. Their coats were a cheerful shade of rose, zipped all the way up, their mittens swinging from strings. A man followed a few steps behind them, tall and broad-shouldered, his coat buttoned wrong in his distraction. He held 2 tickets in one hand and his phone in the other, glancing between them with a furrowed brow. He looked tired in the way only single parents did alert even while exhausted. The girls' laughter slowed as they reached Mara's bench. They stopped. Both of them turned their heads at the exact same time and stared at her. Mara's first instinct was to look away. She braced herself for the usual reaction, curiosity turning into discomfort, then into a quick tug on an adult's sleeve and a hurried retreat. She kept her eyes low, focusing on a crack in the concrete. But the footsteps didn't move away. Instead, she heard a small voice, clear and serious. "Daddy." She glanced up. One of the girls was pointing at her, mittened finger extended without accusation, just observation. "She looks cold." The man looked up from his phone, following the direction of her finger. His expression shifted, instantly surprise, then embarrassment. "Girls," he said softly but firmly, "don't point. Come on, our train." The other twin stepped closer, tilting her head. "Do you live here?" The question wasn't cruel. It wasn't mocking. It was asked with the same curiosity one might ask about a bird perched on a rail. Mara swallowed. Her voice came out quieter than she intended. "No, sweetheart. I'm just, resting." The man moved forward quickly. "I'm so sorry," he said, placing a hand on each girl's shoulder. "They don't understand. It's okay," Mara said before he could finish. She surprised herself by smiling. Kids ask honest questions. The girls exchanged a look, that wordless twin conversation full of shared meaning adults could never quite decode. Then, without asking permission, they climbed onto the bench beside Mara, one on each side pressing close as if they had known her forever. Mara stiffened. Afraid to move, afraid to breathe. The first twin studied her face with intense focus. "You need a home," she said, nodding as if she had just solved a puzzle. "And we need a mommy," the second twin added. Equally confident. The world seemed to stop. The man's phone slipped from his hand and hit the concrete with a dull clatter. He didn't notice. His eyes were fixed on his daughters, wide with shock. "Girls," he said, his voice strained. "You can't say things like that." Mara felt something crack open inside her chest. A laugh bubbled up, sharp and unexpected. followed by the sudden burn of tears she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years. "They're sweet," she said quickly. Not trusting herself to say more, the twins leaned closer. "What's your name?" One asked. "Mara." "I'm Lily," she said proudly, tapping her chest. "And I'm Rose," the other added. "We're twins. Daddy says we're double trouble." Mara looked up at the man. He rubbed a hand over his face, half mortified, half helpless. "I'm Daniel," he said. "And I really am sorry," Rose frowned slightly. "Why?" "She didn't do anything bad." Daniel opened his mouth, then closed it again. A loud announcement echoed through the station, calling out delayed arrivals and departures. The crowd shifted, people moving around them like water around stones. Daniel cleared his throat. "Our train isn't for another 30 minutes, he said, almost to himself. Then he looked at Mara. Would you like something warm to eat? There's a cafe inside." Mara's pride flared instantly. "I couldn't." Lily reached for her hand. Her grip was warm and firm, shockingly real. "Please," she said. "You look like you need soup." Mara hesitated. No one had held her hand like that in years, not without wanting something in return. Before she could answer, Rose added, "Mommy used to say soup fixes sad days." The word hit Mara like a physical blow. Daniel went still. His jaw tightened, and for a moment he looked as though he might say something, then thought better of it. "I'm sorry," Mara whispered. Daniel shook his head slowly. "It's okay." They walked to the cafe together, the twins dragging Mara between them as if afraid she might disappear. The warmth inside felt overwhelming. The smell of bread and coffee made Mara's stomach ache with hunger she had learned to ignore. They ordered soup and tea. Daniel paid without comment, without looking at her like she owed him gratitude. Mara ate slowly, savoring every bite, embarrassed by how good it felt. The twins chatted endlessly about school, about their teacher who smelled like apples, about the cat who slept in the dryer once. Daniel watched them with a soft, aching smile, glancing at Mara now and then, as if trying to understand how she fit into this sudden picture. When the final boarding call echoed through the station, the moment shattered. Daniel stood. "We have to go." Lily's face fell immediately. Rose's lip trembled. Mara set her spoon down carefully. "Thank you," she said. "For the food. For the kindness." She stood up, forcing her legs to steady themselves. "You should go. You'll miss your train." Lily wrapped her arms around Mara's waist without warning. Rose followed, hugging her from the other side. "You still need a home." Lily set into her coat. "And we still need a mommy," Rose whispered. Daniel gently pried them away, his own eyes suspiciously bright. "Girls, come on." Mara knelt in front of them, forcing a smile that hurt her face. "You already have everything you need," she said softly. The twins waved as they were pulled toward the platform. Lily turned back again and again until the doors finally closed. Mara returned to her bench. The station colder than before. She told herself it was nothing, just children being children. But as the train pulled away, she pressed her hand to her chest, where two small arms had wrapped around her, and felt something she hadn't felt in a very long time. Hope. 3 days passed, and the memory of the twins refused to fade. Mara told herself it was foolish to replay that afternoon again and again, the warmth of the cafe, Lily's small hand in hers, Rose's serious eyes saying things no child should have the power to say. Moments like that were dangerous. They made you imagine a life you couldn't afford to want. The rain began on the fourth morning. It came down hard, relentless, soaking through coats and bones alike. The station emptied faster than usual, people fleeing into taxis and underground tunnels. Mara stood beneath the narrow shelter near the old ticket machines, hugging her backpack to her chest as if it could shield her from the cold. She was debating whether to move to a different corner when she heard her name. "Mara?" Her heart jumped. She turned slowly, afraid she had imagined it. Daniel stood a few yards away, his hair damp, his coat darkened by rain. In one hand he held a large umbrella. In the other, two small hands tugged eagerly forward, Lily and Rose. "We found her." Lily shouted, slipping free and running toward her. Rose followed, more carefully but just as determined. They wrapped themselves around Mara's legs. Laughing like they'd reunited with a long-lost friend, Mara froze, breath knocked from her lungs. How? Daniel approached, looking both relieved and nervous. They remembered the station. Wouldn't stop asking to come back. I thought you might be here. I told Daddy this is where you live, Rose said proudly. Mara managed a weak smile. That's not exactly wrong. Lily looked up at her, rain dripping from her hood. Did you miss us? The honesty of the question undid her. She nodded before she could stop herself. Yes, the word felt like a confession. Daniel hesitated, then spoke carefully. I don't want to intrude. And if this is uncomfortable, we can leave. But it's raining hard, and I was wondering if you'd like to come somewhere warm. Just for a bit. No pressure. Mara's instincts screamed at her to say no. Life had taught her that kindness always ended, and endings hurt worse when you let yourself believe. But Lily's fingers were already laced with hers, and Rose was smiling up at her like she already belonged. Just for a bit, Mara said quietly. Daniel's apartment was modest, warm and filled with signs of life school drawings taped crookily to the fridge, shoes piled by the door, a faint smell of soap and toast. It felt lived in, imperfect in a way that made Mara's chest ache. The twins gave her a full tour as if she were an honored guest. This is our room, Lily said, pointing proudly. We sleep here because Daddy gets lonely. Daniel cleared his throat. That's not exactly. And this is Mommy's picture, Rose added, gesturing to a framed photograph on the shelf. A woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile looked back at Mara. She was very pretty. Mara said softly. She was, Daniel agreed. His voice held no bitterness, only a quiet sadness. Dinner was simple pasta, bread, apples, but it felt like a feast. The twins talked over each other, telling Mara about school, about their favorite books, about how Daddy burned pancakes every Sunday without fail. Later, when the girls were finally asleep, Daniel sat across from Mara at the kitchen table, 2 mugs of tea between them. I hope this doesn't feel strange, he said. They haven't connected to anyone like this since their mother passed. Mara stared into her cup. I don't want to confuse them. I'm not someone who stays. Daniel met her eyes. You stayed tonight? That night turned into another, and then another. Mara slept on the couch at first, waking in the dark, heart racing, convinced she'd overstayed her welcome. But each morning, the twins greeted her like it was the most natural thing in the world. They asked her to brush their hair, to read them stories, to walk them to school. Daniel never asked for more. He helped her replace her worn clothes, helped her apply for a job at the local library, sat beside her while she filled out forms that reminded her how far she'd fallen. Slowly, almost without noticing, Mara began to heal. She laughed more. She slept deeper. She stopped flinching at kindness. One afternoon, Lily came home waving a piece of paper. I drew something. It was a picture of 4 stick figures holding hands. Above them, in uneven letters, were the words, my family. Mara's throat tightened. That evening, after the twins were asleep, she stood in the doorway, hands trembling. Daniel, I can't replace her, she said. Their mother, he nodded. I don't want you to. Then what am I doing here? Daniel took a deep breath. You're being you. And somehow, that's exactly what we needed. Weeks turned into months. Mara got the job at the library. The twins started calling her Mara Mom as a joke that stopped sounding like a joke. Daniel watched her with a softness that made her heart race and scare her all at once. One night, the twins stood between them. Hands linked. You need a home, Lily said. And we need a mommy, Rose finished. Mara knelt and pulled them close, tears spilling freely. Yes, she whispered. If you'll have me. Years later, she would pass that same train station holding their hands, no longer homeless, no longer lost, and she would remember the day 2 little girls saw not a woman with nothing, but a mother waiting to be found.